Hi, everyone. My name is Donna Block, and I'm an assistant professor in the teacher education department at Alliant International University. I have 32 years of experience in teaching elementary and middle school, as well as K through 12 and special education, and about the last 13 years in higher education.
And my name is Mike Block. I am a faculty member at Capella University in the School of Counseling and Human Services, and I've worked nearly 35 years in the field of education, counseling, and psychology. And we're here today to talk about rethinking career preparation in education. So the purpose of this presentation is not only to look at the viability of vocational technical opportunities, but to challenge our long-standing tradition and our narrative of education. The incentive of obtaining a four-year college degree in the minds of many continues to represent the preconditions necessary for success. After all, statistically speaking, today those who earn a four-year degree will reportedly earn higher earnings than those who do not. You get that sheepskin and you will pave your way to success, right? But hold on. Do those statistics tell the whole story? What about the other set of facts?
Such as the $1.3 trillion in student loan debt that continues to accrue at an alarming rate as the cost of college has increased faster than every sector, including healthcare.
Or the fact that we currently have 5.6 million jobs in occupations that require skills in advanced training, but cannot be obtained through expensive traditional four-year programs.
Maybe it's time to challenge these beliefs, or at least have the conversation, and possibly reassess how we can better prepare our young people for life choices, and also take into account the needs of our workforce.
Okay, before we get into some of our questions, I think it's important to note that the demand for skilled labor continues to be met with short supply. It is a well-known fact that labor shortages and skill gaps are impacting manufacturing and supply chains throughout the United States. As older, highly skilled workers are retiring or leaving the workforce, we are left with a limited supply of younger workers to replace them.
There's a prevailing skills gap that is a direct reflection of what we value in society. The incentive to push students toward traditional college continues to have adverse consequences.
So the fact that we call alternative education an alternative kind of shows what we value in society. Occupations such as plumbing, welding, electricity, construction, just to name a few, continue to be seen as subservient to so-called white-collar jobs. And why is that? So really our purpose today is to ask some questions and have some discussion on this topic. Since this pandemic has forced many of us to re-examine our own lives and take a closer look at what we value as a society, we thought it was important. Why are we so fixated on the assumption that a four-year degree is the way to go, at least in terms of success? This may be the first question that we ask, since this is something that I hear all the time.
Yes, it's something that I've heard since I was a young girl. And in my case, it made a difference because I knew I wanted to be a teacher, and I knew that I had to get a four-year degree to be a teacher.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's in the minds of, there's kind of a certainty that comes with getting a four-year degree. It's like upon completion of this degree, I'm therefore qualified to do whatever job might be in front of me. And of course, if you're becoming a teacher, that would make sense, right? But there's a lot of other occupations where it may not make a lot of sense, especially with all the changes that are taking place at such an exponential rate to try to keep up with the demands of the skilled labor and just the qualifications of doing a job. Don't really match up to traditional college pathways.
I just thought of something. We have a good example of that in our family. We have 5 children. And at one point in time, we worked at the same university and had a great benefit where our kids could go to school there for free between the two of us. And we just assumed, this is early on, we just assumed that all 5 of them would take that offer and go with it. And I remember someone laughing at me when I said that, and they said, "Oh, you never know what your kids are going to want to do." And as it turned out, they didn't go. They had other things that they wanted to do, like Lavin, for example.
Right. She went into a field that's entirely wouldn't really have been justified for her to go into a four-year program. She started going to college, but we found out she was sitting in the parking lot putting on makeup, which was kind of her passion. So we quickly re-enrolled her into a different school, and where she learned to put on makeup.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been her thing.
Yeah, she spent the last 8 years with a really wonderful company, Sephora. She's a makeup artist. She's won awards with Sephora for her makeup artistry. And that was something that she got to do without going to a 4-year college. Now, we're not saying that 4-year colleges are a bad thing. Obviously, right. That's what we do for a living. It's just that we've seen with our 5 children that just wasn't the right fit for them. And I know they tell us now, because they're much older, they'll say to us, you know, we felt bad because we thought you would be upset with us if we didn't go to college.
Right. And I think that's kind of a common experience that many people have in families. It's almost like an expectation that we have to go to college, like this 4-year degree. You start with a 4-year degree, and then you kind of decide, okay, what you want to do after that. But when you look at the cost that's racking up and just the sheer, the amount of time too, we're kind of mortgaging our children's futures, I think, at the expense of, something that isn't even certain. And so I think, we need to probably have more preparation early on for these types of things. I mean, to help students get in the mindset of, looking at other factors other than just 4-year education.
Mm-hmm. And that goes kind of into our next question.
Right. The second question would be, beyond building a foundation of learning, how does our current curriculum engage our students? How does it motivate them? And also, how does it satisfy the demand of the workforce, which it should mirror that, right? I mean, if we're preparing students to enter the world of work, there should be jobs out there or career paths that mirror that. But what is, talking about curriculum, let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay, because that's a question with a lot of different questions inside of it. So first was, how does our current curriculum engage our students and motivate them? I would say and this isn't just personal experience with my own kids. I've worked with many high school kids over the years, and it seems like personal experience, kids didn't seem to enjoy going to school as much as like I did when I was in high school. There wasn't really a lot for them. For example, I know that a couple of our kids didn't do so well in math, high-level math courses they had to take, and it didn't make them want to go to school. They were nervous about it. They were uncomfortable about it. They knew that they wouldn't be using, let's say, definitely not trigonometry, but
right. Maybe the higher level
math. They knew they wouldn't be using right. that in their career choices, and it didn't motivate them to want to go to school.
Right. And I always think of that question that students often ask, why do we have to learn this stuff? Hopefully we have a good answer for that. And of course we need those foundational skills. Those are really important, reading, writing, and math, and being able to do those things to a degree that can get us by. But, beyond that, we also have to look at other factors, and that's okay. How can we, how can we use this education in combination with kind of our aspirations, our goals, our desires, which we may not even know at the time, because when you're in high school, you don't know what you're going to be. Sometimes you have to do some experimentation. You might need to try some different things.
Well, and if you don't mind me butting in here, yeah. I see that as being lacking in our schools.
Absolutely.
I think back to, this is a long time ago, but I think back to when I was in 6th grade, and at the end of every Friday, we had the last hour of every week on Friday to explore different fun little things to do, like crocheting was one that I would choose. And I learned to crochet and used it throughout my life. I've made many blankets and scarves. And if I wouldn't have had the opportunity to explore other little things and see what I was interested in, I never would have had that skill.
Right.
It's a small skill, but we could transfer that to the high school and give people more options.
Yeah. And in addition to that, I think looking at from a school counseling standpoint, opportunities such as job shadowing, being able to go out and kind of experience, time spent on the job of maybe a profession or I don't know, something that you might have been exposed to, that can be very valuable, as are, apprenticeship opportunities and programs that do on-site training and that sort of thing. I mean, I think kind of just looking outside the traditional box. But, you know, going back to that, I just the word alternative itself has kind of a negative connotation.
It sure does.
You know,
sure does. And I just think that if a student was able to pick a course where they could go out in the world and spend some time in watching job shadowing and just seeing different things like that, they would choose that over a trigonometry class, unless that happened to be what they're going into. And it would make them want to go to school, make them enjoy school, look forward to it.
Right. And on the flip side, maybe somebody had some aspirations of doing something until they actually went, you know, maybe, you know, if they had a parent who was in a certain line of work and, okay, I'm going to go out and see what that's like. And maybe they didn't like it. Maybe it didn't adhere to their personality, to their, you know, just what they were interested in doing. And that might take them into a different route rather than spending all this time in preparation, gearing up for something that they may not be totally satisfied with.
Right.
So,
yeah, we really need to think of how we can engage our students so they want to stay in school, they want to go to school, they look forward to it. Because if they're not engaged, they're not learning. I've always said that.
Right.
In any subject area.
Yeah. And so, I mean, there's so many questions that we need to ask. And I know we have a limited time here, but one of the things that we wanted to talk about is what can we do to make changes going forward regarding, you know, really our attitudes toward education, and maybe so we're not kind of fixated on this traditional view.
Yes, I agree.
So, you know, going forward, what are some things that you would say are important in thinking this? I mean, what are some areas that?
I think we need to come together as an educational community and talk about these kinds of things.
Right.
These things need to be talked about. I'm all for career and college readiness, but I also think we need to think back on the days of vocational education, and that needs to come back. And a lot of charter schools have gone off and done that. That's why we have more charter schools, because they're giving those choices to students, and that's why a lot of kids are locked into the charter school.
They're choosing
to go think about that
non-traditional path. I agree. And I remember we went through that wave of vocational programs being cut. I think now we're starting to revisit it a little bit, but it's still way underserved, I think. Yeah. I think we really have to provide more opportunities for students beyond traditional opportunities, and not stigmatize it so much. I mean, I think that stigma really hasn't been helping the cause.
Yeah, we were talking about, we know a young man that wants to be a diesel mechanic. And we were talking about how we spend a lot of time in our RV, and we've gotten stuck in places and not been able to find a diesel mechanic.
Right.
And then when we do find one, we're paying a lot of money for him. So we were telling this young man that go for it. You need to go for that. And it's too bad that he didn't have that training back when he was 17, 18 years old, because he could be very successful in that career.
Right. No, yeah. And so, I mean, so there's a lot of areas to consider, and we've discussed a few of these areas, and hopefully pose some questions that we think are worth considering as we move forward. And really, how do we inspire and motivate and challenge young people to pursue these opportunities that bring satisfaction while also resolving our workforce demands? So I know we have a lot of challenges ahead as we emerge from this pandemic. We need a lot of innovative ideas and strategies that are going to help us persevere and thrive as individuals and as a society. So these opportunities to talk about this are really beneficial, I think. But we really thank you for your time, and hopefully you enjoyed our short presentation.
Thanks for this opportunity. Have a good day.
Thank you.